Yeah, hi, welcome to our live stream, mortgage live stream here. I'm Paul Archer, but it says down below, so that's a bit obvious, really, isn't it? But hi, welcome to 20 minutes of mortgage gold updates, all those good things for you to help you if you're in the mortgage business. Now, we're on lockdown number 2, or lockdown 2.0, they're calling it. But in the housing market, of course, things are still trickling along nicely. Robert Jenrick, the housing minister, housing secretary, said that the housing market's going to continue as is because it needs to, because we've got this stamp duty thing that people are still trying to make some money from, aren't they? And they need to be making offers around about now, really. I mean, we bought a house a couple of years back, made an offer in mid-November. We didn't actually complete until early April, I think it was. So it's very tight, really, with Christmas and everyone really being so busy. So mortgage advisors have got to get their clients cracking on those sort of things. So what have I got for you? Got a few stories for you to help you in the mortgage world. One that's a little bit worrying if you're in the equity release market or you hope to get into that marketplace. But we'll talk more about it as we go along. So got a lovely story for you to kick off with, and this story actually involves some photographs. Maybe you read about it at the weekend, but in Chelsea, and I'm not talking about the football team, of course, which is doing actually quite well under Frank Lampard, but in Chelsea, which is a posh part of London for those of you that know, you have some very beautiful Georgian properties, 200-300-year-old properties, 3-4 stories, worth 4 million plus, and one fell down a couple of days ago. And I just want to show you some photographs of this actually. I just want to see what you think about this, really. I've got a photograph. I don't know if you can see that, whether you want to zoom in on the camera. I'm sure you can zoom into your heart's content, but I'm sure you've Googled it anyway. We've got here a property which is in Durham Square. Never been there. Have you been there? Durham, or Durham Place, I should say, in Chelsea. And it's worth about 4 million. In fact, there's 2 properties here, but it fell down, as you can see from the photographs. Do you love those, do you? Let's just pop that one over there so you can see that. And you can see quite clearly, it's like bomb damage, it's like Second World War bomb damage, this property. And it fell down, and it fell down because of structural alterations, and it kind of makes you think about structural problems when it comes to advising on mortgages and things. If you take a look at the plan, and nobody really knows yet what the problem was, but if you take a look at the plan of the property, and I'll draw this down here so you can see this. For those of you on podcasts, you just have to imagine what I'm describing, really. If I can draw for you the terrace houses that we've got here, there are 3 or 4 stories, these ones, and they're terrace properties. Built to last, of course. You know, they survived the Luftwaffe bombing in the Second World War. But so this one chap, I think it was a lady or a man, I don't know, who bought these properties. I say 2 because what he did is he converted the 2 properties into one, Beatles style really. But at the same time, he decided to excavate a basement as well. So if you draw a little picture of what he did, he put a basement in there. And everybody thinks, of course, it's the basement that caused the problem because, you know, you dig deeper, you underpin, or don't underpin it, it undervalues the integrity of the property. But the people that built the basement, or dug the basement, called Capital Basements in London, so it's not us, Governor, no, we're not at fault. And they probably did adhere to the right rules. Because when you get planning permission for these things, and by the way, the local authority gave planning for this, you then have to get building regulations approval, and the building inspector is often outsourced now to private companies, but these people know what they're doing, and they recommend and tell you how to build it properly, and if it is looking a bit dodgy, they'll recommend structural engineers reports and all sorts of things to make sure it's done properly. And more than likely the pinning or the underpinning went ahead quite well, because that's your existing underpinning on the property, as you can see. You've got existing underpinning. Probably what they did is they probably underpinned it even further with more concrete or whatever they did. They might have used slab system, but they would have underpinned below where the basement was dug out to make sure that the property was kept upwards. But I think the problem occurred in this retaining wall which divides the 2 properties. I think what they've gone and done is they've probably gone and taken that wall out without putting the RSJs and supports and things, because it supports the basement there, you can see, you know, there's underpinning going on there. And the whole thing's just collapsed. So it makes you think about the housing market and what's going on here. A couple of implications, really. My partner said, what about insurance? Would that cover? The insurance won't cover this. This is negligence. Insurance isn't going to cover you for this. So whoever caused the problem, hopefully he's got insurance, so you can claim against their professional or their liability insurance. Because structural integrity comes into its own, and if your customer has buying a property or is looking to buy a property whereby it's not quite as good as it should be, or there's a problem with the property, then you want to make sure that any alterations and any adjustments to the property have been dealt with accordingly along the way. Interesting, that one, isn't it, when it comes to it? Okay, let's continue on to another topic area then for you. Let's get on to another topic area which I want to talk about as we go through. Just make sure we've got the live stream going ahead nicely for you. There we are, we're still streaming beautifully to YouTube for you. I want to go on to a topic which is a little bit more serious, really, and this is one that I was creating over the weekend because I think it's going to cause a lot of problems. So let's just take a picture of our property out front. Look at this property, incredible thing, isn't it? Completely and utterly collapsed. It's amazing when you think about it. Let's pop that over there. What I want to talk about now is equity release and what's been going wrong in the marketplace. And I'm quite happy to speak my mind on this one. And I was reading about the FCA, our wonderful regulator, who are very concerned about the equity release marketplace. And what's happened here, and I'll title this one for you, equity release, here we go, equity release, and fact finding really is where I'm going with this, because I think this is the key topic area. Now, what's happened in the equity release or the later life market over the last year or so is it's had a lot of new incumbents come into the marketplace who are existing mortgage advisors and small brokerage firms, large firms, whatever it is, enticed in the marketplace by the fees, by the market share that they can gain. But many of them are transferring the process they use for mortgages to the process for equity release. And that's where it's all going wrong, in my opinion. So the FCA got a little bit concerned about it last summer, and they sent out kind of like a note, a briefing, if you like, of the issues and problems that they see in the equity release marketplace. And they sent out this note, which they kind of said, look, this is the problem as we see it. These are the issues. So I call that the issues in the equity release marketplace. And then there was a few issues they talked about. The first one was the personalising. And what they reckoned was that what we aren't doing, is personalising the advice for people in later life in the equity release marketplace. We're not fully understanding the customer's needs and circumstances as we should be doing so. We're not, for example, with debt consolidation issues, we're not looking at the risks involved. We're not personalising the KFIs. We're just going through a bit of a fact-find exercise, like we do with mortgages. And that's the problem, I think, because we're using the same process we have with mortgages, which fundamentally are not risky. I mean, okay, what people say, the average mortgage is not a risky thing. Okay, you may not pay the payments and you could lose your properties, there's implications there. But actually recommending a fixed rate or a variable rate, it's not difficult. Most brokers now, their work is involved in sourcing the mortgage and placing the mortgage and pushing the mortgage through. Actually giving advice on a mortgage is a pretty straightforward thing, unless of course it's buy-to-lets or something more complex. So what we're doing is we're going through fact finding and we're just kind of filling in boxes. Not everybody, of course not, but we're not having proper conversations. We're not finding out about clients' needs, about their future plans, their goals, all the aspects that we should be doing in the later life market. What we're not doing, ISA, is we're not challenging the customer as well. This is another thing the FCA said. We're not challenging the customer enough. So customers, of course, will talk to various people, family, friends, and they'll come along and say, oh, I'd like to raise £60,000 to fund my daughter's university or something like that. And we kind of say, okay, that's fine, I can do that for you. Let's organise that straight away for you. And we go ahead. We're order taking. We're a bit like the waiter in the restaurant. What would you like, sir? Oh, I'd like the steak, please. I'd like it well done. Very good, sir. Very good choice, sir. Let me organise that with the chef. And that's the problem, you see. We're not challenging. We're not saying to the client, well, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but what else have you got? What other sources of income have you got? What other sources of money have you got? We're not asking why. Why are you looking for 50,000? What's the need here? Why are you looking at equity release? What's the aim that you're trying to achieve? What's your goal here? Why needs to come out in a conversational way in order to achieve what the customer wants, and then we can match needs. So when we give advice, we personalise it to the customer's real needs and situation that we've elicited. We've got all the alternatives, all the other options available, all the things we should talk about before we start giving advice as well. And they also talked about evidencing advice as well, evidencing the advice to make sure that we produce tailored suitability letters that use the client's language, their words, their phraseology. I mean, I received a suitability letter from some advice I got earlier this year, and I've been in the market for 30 odd years, and I didn't even understand what they were going on about. I mean, it was about 20 pages long, this thing, and it was just full of gobbledygook. It was full of caveats and bottom covering phrases and stuff like that, which is totally what it is at the end of the day. So evidencing the advice is another key one as well. They're also concerned about fees and charges. That's another one really. Fees and charges. They're hinting that they're too expensive. They probably are. At the end of the day, they probably are. But of course, you need to justify your fees for the time involved. It takes time to do this. Filling in a mortgage fact find don't take too long at all. But doing an equity release, later life advisor, circumstances, fact finding, finding out about it, takes time. And on video, you're looking at several 20-minute meetings as opposed to the big 1 hour fact find as well. So are fees excessive? Do we explain them properly for the client as well? So these were the issues that they talked about, and Google for the detail, of course you should do. What's happening now though is they're going to the next stage. So that they've hinted, if you like, these are the problems. What they've now done is they've now issued a what they call a Dear CEO letter. I don't know if you've seen that. I love that. Dear CEO, that's the Chief Executive Officer letter, which has gone to all the mortgage companies with permissions to equity release, saying, look, we're giving you a little chance now to have a look at this. So we're interested to see what you've done about this as well. What have you done to solve the problem? And while we're here, by the way, we're also now worried about the long-term impact. Another issue's come up to mind now, and it's redemption penalties. Redemption penalties, which actually are pretty stiff in the equity release marketplace. Not a lot of people know that, because you talk about fixed rate mortgages, aren't you, for the whole term, aren't you? So we're worried about the long-term impact. Were alternative solutions really explored? Did the customers change in circumstances? Did you have a conversation around that to find out what they're going to be doing in the future? Are they looking to move house or stay where they are? All those things. So they've added another one to their list as well. So they're saying to the CEOs, look, what have you done about it? We're quite keen to see how you solve the problem. The problem is, of course, we've had a pandemic going on in the meantime, which is not the biggest problem. The big problem is we've just got a stupidly busy mortgage market, which is just keeping everybody busy. I mean, I've been contacting my clients to see if they want to have a conversation about stuff. No, Paul, we haven't got the time right now, next year, because they're just rushed off their feet. So I doubt very much if many have done anything about it, which is quite scary, because next quarter, they've said in Q1 of 2021, which is far away, of course, Christmas is in 6 weeks' time, they're going to come along and check up, see what you've done. And if you haven't done anything, they'll fine you, or they'll stop you doing business, because they do. And they should too, because this is going to cause problems in the future. This is building upon complaints that are going to occur with the Ombudsman in the future. The Financial Services Compensation System, all that kind of stuff is going to cause problems in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. So you do need to get this right. And it's the advice risk here, not the lender, it's the advice risk. So it's the brokers, it's the advisors, it's the mortgage advisors. So if you've literally just gone from being a mortgage advisor past the equity release exam, which ain't difficult to do really, and then you've become an equity release advisor and you've launched yourself into the marketplace, then your compliance people will wrap you loads of rules and regulations, and they'll give you things you've got to do to cover themselves. But have you actually upped your game when it comes to fact finding? Have you started doing proper conversations with people, challenging people, finding out why, looking at circumstances, doing lifeline conversations with people, explaining the fees and charges, personalising your suitability letters, using the language? These 20-page affairs are just, you can't get away with it anymore. It's just ridiculous. People just don't read them. They're just ridiculous. They're just anti-complaint, compliancy sourcing software produced reports. That's all they are, and they should be banished. It takes longer to do all of this, a proper conversation with people, spread over 3 or 4 20-minute Zoom calls, for example, or in people's gardens, whatever you need to do. We're rescuing the situation by providing next year, over Christmas next year, online coaching actor-based role plays where we're going to be rehearsing using clients, actors we're using, and we're going to put mortgage advisors through it to see how they come up, to see how they do this, see how they fact find people. Just listen to what they do, recording the call, of course, and then we're going to watch the call and we're going to pick it all apart, and then we're going to give them some feedback, some coaching feedback for individual advisors. You don't need block training. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You know, go on a fact-find training course. You don't need to do that. That's a sledgehammer and a nut, isn't it? Each individual advisor who's very experienced in what they do just needs a few tweaks to how the way they operate, and they'll be cooking on gas on that. So we're doing that, offering that to clients in the spring next year, and that'll literally a couple of sessions over a period of time, and your people will just change just like that. And you could evidence this because it's all recorded, and you can show the FCA what you've done, etc., etc. So it's a big thing. It's a big issue, and we'll keep you informed how things are progressing. Hey, did you like that? Did you? Was that good? Did you enjoy that one? Hope you did. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to finish off now with a bit more of a light-hearted question, really, a light-hearted idea for you to help you in your advising or selling, whatever it is you're doing. We are still salespeople at the end of the day. Let's just knock it. Let's talk about buying signals. Bit of an 80s phrase, really, buying signals. I'm talking about verbal buying signals here. Is my title, verbal buying signals. That's a bit of a take from a 1980s sales training manual, isn't it? Buying signals. Now, a buying signal is a signal to tell you that the client's doing okay, the customer's doing okay, they're enjoying the process that you're going through. And when you're doing in-person meetings with customers, it's not a difficult thing to pick this up, really, buying signals. I like to use the metaphor of a traffic light. You've heard me talk about this before. And when I'm interviewing customers, mortgage advising, doing selling, any kind of selling really, I look out for an imaginary traffic light. And on this imaginary traffic light, it has 3 lights, of course. It has the red light, it has the amber light, and it has the green light. Let's get the right colours this way, because we know how traffic lights work, or stop signs as they call it across the pond. And I'm looking for green signals. I'm looking for the green light all the time. That's what I'm looking for. I'm always looking out for signals, hints, verbal, non-verbal, to tell me the customer's doing okay. If I'm unsure, I'll ask them, how does that sound so far? What do you think of this conversation so far? Is this of use to you? Is this valuable? I'm always testing to make sure, to tell, for the customer to tell me what's going on. I'm always looking for green. Now, this is great when you're in person and you can read body language. You just pick up somebody's attention, their face, their body. You can read these things. But on video, it's slightly difficult, isn't it? You might not have a brilliant signal. You might not even see the customer. The customer may have blanked the video for some reason, and maybe you're just using the phone, or you're on video and they're not. But their video might be very grainy. They might not be very well lit, so you can't always see what's going on or read body language. So we're looking at verbal signals. I just want to give you some ideas about what's going on really with the verbal signals. Now, if you're seeing red, then you're getting quiet. Quiet signals from the customer. They're not saying a lot. They're being quieter than normal. Remember to calibrate people when you first meet them and what they normally like. If they're a right old chatterbox, suddenly 20 minutes into the fact finding, for example, they go really quiet. Something's going wrong, and it's telling you that it's red. They might be giving you sort of small reservations or small problems verbally. They might, for example, be giving you little throwaway statements along the way. They might be sort of telling you that, not sure about that, or, oh God, that's something that's going on in my head, or little throwaway remarks, really, indicating like a red signal. So it's not difficult to pick up red signals, really, but sometimes we're not sure whether it's amber or green. Obviously, if you can look at their faces, it changes everything, because they're not being attentive, they're looking away, they're distracted. They might have lost eye contact with you. They might not be giving you eye contact in the first place. They might be sort of talking to their partner rather than you. So it's very easy to pick up non-verbal. It's the verbal ones as well. What about green then? What's telling you things are looking good? Well, first of all, if their voice becomes faster, more excitable, that's a green signal. That's telling you that things are looking good. If they're asking questions around the solution, so they're asking questions about the equity release you're doing for them, or the mortgage product you're doing for them, then that's always a good sort of aspect. If they sound excited, tone of voice, their voice is lifting, that generally indicates a good thing as well along the way. If they're asking more questions, if they're talking more openly to you, maybe they're talking more. You can sense these things. If you're not sure where it's amber, remember to test close. I sense a few issues in your head there, Mr. Brown, or I'm sensing you're not quite going along with this at the moment, or I'm sensing a potential problem. Can you tell me more about that? Can you talk me through your thinking? Can you tell me how you feel about this? And what are you hearing so far? All these things will actually test the water and tell you. Obviously, again, if you can see them, they're attentive, they're looking at you, they're smiling, their facial expressions are looking very positive. Because what we're looking at here is the ability of you as an advisor to pick up these signals via words and sounds alone, and that's the key. So the traffic light metaphor is quite clever, isn't it? It tells you whether things are looking good or not. Remember to test close though, test all the time, test the water, as they say, and that'll help you in your fact-finding advising. Hey, hope you found that useful. How's everybody going? By the way, everybody enjoying themselves? We've got some new boot camp started today on CMAT. A lot of people wanting to get their CMAT mortgage qualifications done and dusted. And we've got an equity release boot camp now, which you can get your equity release exam through. We've also got, we've tightened up and improved our skills-based boot camp as well. So we've got online videos developing your skills in fact-finding, advising, because it's really important to do that. Exams are great, but you've got to be able to do the job, particularly when you get into the equity release market where you're dealing with vulnerable people. So we've got that coming up for you as well. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, please do. We'll keep you informed of that. We're going to really boost it next year, give you more value. If you're on the podcast, head to our website and sign up for our database. Got some new things going on. We've got the podcast for equity release every Saturday morning going on at the moment. So happy to talk to you there. You've got my website down there. You've got my name, got my email. If you want to drop me an email, talk to me further about things, link in with me at paularcher.uk. Happy to talk to you. Tell me where you come from. Don't just, please would you link in with me? People say that now. You've got a reason why you're doing that. I'd be happy to talk to you all about that and connect with you as much as I can. And we'll be here next week for our live stream. We've been running for 23 minutes, so I'm going to say goodbye now. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the lockdown 2.0. It ain't much longer. If you're in Wales, of course, you've been released today, haven't you? Which is great news. We'll catch you all next week.